Steve here with the Fretboard Forge, and today we are talking about bar chords. Bar chords come in about 5 basic forms that we'll go into depth on later, but right now the one we're going to look at is going to be the most commonly used and basic form of a bar chord, which is known as an E-form bar chord, mainly because the same way you'd play an open chord with an E shape with your fingers, that's what you replicate when you play the actual bar chord. So you just move that shape around the neck, and that becomes different chords then according to where it is actually placed. And your first finger is actually going to act as the nut further up and down the neck, hence it being a bar chord because you're using your first finger to bar all the strings. And then you just add the E shape on top of it. But that's a lot to look at, so let's zoom in closer to see how that all works. Alright, so your basic bar chord with an E form, like I was saying, where the E part of this actually comes from are these 3 fingers right here, which if they were down in the position that you play a normal E chord would cover the same 3 strings in that pattern, but you just move them up and you use your first finger to bar where this was instead of having it just open strings and ringing on the fret that is the nut down there. So let's start off by, before you put your fingers down, the first part of a bar chord is just laying the first finger across, try to move my other fingers out of the way here, laying the first finger across the strings, and just as if you saw what I showed about power chords, it's you want a similar arched position with your finger across there, but in this case you want to make it so your finger's pushing down on all the strings, so it's pushing them all down, and if you were to play them each individually, you would hear them ring. So before you go and put the actual chord on there, try that out with just playing each string individually to make sure that you're pushing down hard enough with your finger. And when you start out, odds are you're gonna get a string. Usually the D string and the G string are gonna be your biggest culprits in general as far as giving a kind of a dead note. But just try it out and get used to the feeling of pushing down there. This would be another example of if you're going to do a full bar with your first finger. It's very handy if you have your thumb in the back middle of the neck. If you do other stuff later on where you maybe just bar the top and you have your thumb over at the bottom, you can do it that way, but for doing this, it really helps if you have your thumb on the neck so you can kind of clamp it down like a capo. But anyway, or capo depending on how you like saying your long A's. Anyway, right now, just as soon as you get that down, what you'll want to do is add your other fingers, and they will go on as such. Keep in mind, for this one, we're playing a G bar chord, so that will be, it's an E form chord, but the actual chord that's sounding is a G chord, so it sounds just like that, but up in bar chord form here. So what you're going to start with is you're going to have your finger on the first finger will be holding down the string on the top E string there on the 3rd fret. Then after that, you'll take your ring finger and put it on the 5th fret of the A string. And then following that on the 5th fret of the D string will come your pinky. And finally, you'll stick your middle finger on the 4th fret of the G string. So 3rd fret of the E, 5th fret of the D, of the A, 5th fret of the A, D, yeah, I got my A's and D's dyslexic today, and then the 4th fret of the G. And then your first finger will press down the other 2 up there along on the B and E. They'll be pressing down on the 3rd fret of that as well. So then again, just play each string, hear it ring back and forth, make sure they're all there and they're all sounding the way they should, and then just get used to playing that and try going between different chords. Just start out by doing a thing where just lift your fingers up a little bit to mute it and then slide down, and then play the next one. And the fun part of doing this at first will just be keeping all the fingers in the same position relative to each other. Because to make a different chord with a bar chord, it's super easy. All you need to do is move where your finger is, and what chord you're playing will be based on this bass note right here. So this is a G note, so this right here is a G chord. So wherever you move, so this is an F down here, so hence F chord, F sharp, G, A flat, or G sharp, and so on and so forth. So just try moving them around and try to keep your fingers in the same relative position, and what chord it is will be entirely dictated by where you are on the neck. Alright, so bar chords are very, very useful and versatile chords. They'll take a little bit of effort to get down at first, but once you do that, you can play all sorts of sharp and flat chords any place you want to on the neck, and you will also be able to modify those chords pretty simply to make all sorts of major, like major, minor, dominant chords, adding on all sorts of different things, and they'll all modify pretty easily, and we'll also go into that in later lessons. So for now, give it a try, play it in different places. The one we were doing was just a bar chord down here on the G, move it around and see how it feels in different parts of the guitar. And as always, visit www.fretboardforge.com for the pictures on how to do these chords, more lessons, and more information. Thank you.